I think a couple things to recap the game. Now that we've had a chance to watch the tape and see, that the beauty of first games is there's always things to work on. And I think for us, the majority of the corrections we need to make coming out of this game are very fixable. And that's going to be really important, not only for this week, but moving forward down the road. But this week, more importantly, facing a really good opponent. So, I think one of the key areas for us is, we had some critical penalties in this game. Obviously, the punt return, 2 penalties on that play, 3 holding penalties on offense. Some things that we definitely have to clean up on that front to make sure that we play a brand of football that we're proud of, and we believe in being a disciplined football team. I thought we did a lot of really cool disciplined things in the game, but having those penalties at some of those critical moments, those are tough, and they're always tough to overcome. We overcame a couple of them in game and didn't others. That was a big swing on the punt return. Not having a touchdown, then starting, I think, back on our 8-yard line and going 3 and out, and what that can lead to from a field position standpoint. So things to work on that front. But pleased, like I said, with week 1 and some of the operations, the way some guys played. But some other guys need to play better. And that's just the nature of the business and the way we go to work at it, and we'll do everything we can to get them to do that. As far as this ball game, going to Arkansas, it's a pretty cool game. To think this will be the 79th time these two schools have met, is pretty special for that opportunity. Obviously, old Southwest Conference foes to meet. We obviously have a great deal of respect for Arkansas. I think Coach Pittman has done a fantastic job since getting there of really changing the culture. This football team plays hard. They play physical. They're tough. Witnessed that last year firsthand, and then seeing how they played their opener. It's a brand of football that is it's one that I'm sure they're proud of the way they play. We know it's going to be a hostile environment. They've got a sold-out game, I think, for the first time since 2017. So I think one of the keys for us, obviously, is handling that crowd noise, and what we do from a communication standpoint offensively will be big. So we've got a work cut out for us. We need a really good week of work.
Guys, go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question. We'll get a mic to you. Start over here on the left. Chip.
Steve, can you talk about Arkansas's defense, that 3-high safety look? Obviously, you faced it last year, but what stands out about it?
Well, I mean, they do a really good job of the strength of their defense is right down the middle. They've got 2 really good linebackers in Bumper Pool and Grant Morgan. Smart, heady players, very physical, tough. And then the guy who I think makes it all go is Catalon in the middle. He's back there kind of playing center field. Very aggressive player, excellent tackler, really good instincts. And it allows, the way those 3 guys play, it allows the other guys to, really penetrate up front with their defensive line, mix their coverages in the back end. But in the end of the day, those 3 guys really make it go, and they're very good football players.
Coach, you talked about the hostile environment that you're heading into. Hudson was so poised here. What gives you confidence that he'll have that calmness, that coolness on the road?
I think part of it's Hudson's personality. I think that's kind of who he is. I think he's a very even-keeled demeanor guy. Again, it's another new for him, right? He played his first game here in DKR in front of the crowd we had, and now the next new is going on the road and playing a good opponent and dealing with that hostile environment. So, I can't predict the future, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that he's in the right frame of mind to perform to the best of his abilities.
Back up front, Kirk.
Yeah, Steve, I was curious about your knowledge of the rivalry. I don't know if you've ever seen a tape of the big shootout game, and do you kind of approach rivalry games different when you were at Washington, USC, and like a special animal, and how do you prepare for it?
Probably twofold. One, I am very aware of the rivalry. I say this a lot. I love the pomp and pageantry and the history and the tradition of college football. I think that's what makes our game so unique and so special. So I appreciate it, and I like that aspect of it. And I'm the first guy, if we have some downtime, that turns on these kind of rivalry games. I like to watch them and the pregame and all that kind of stuff. For us, from a preparation standpoint, we really don't. We believe in our routine. I think we're definitely a routine-based operation, regardless of the opponent, and that hopefully puts us in a space where we're not picking and choosing when we have to get up for a game. We should go into the game with a very similar mentality week in and week out, very focused on the task at hand, very detail-oriented, and one that plays our brand, our style of football. So I appreciate the rivalry, and I love that it all entails. But on the flip side of that, from our preparation standpoint, we just go right in. Everybody's, quite frankly, every opponent's a faceless opponent. We look at the tape for the schemes and the players and the knowledge. But at that point, our preparation, it's about us.
Stay in the middle, Brian.
Steve, Texas is a program that in recent years they've lost games at the goal line. They've lost games by extra points. This is a program that botched a coin flip one time, years ago. And to get through an opener as smooth as y'all did, it seems like it had a psychological impact on some of the older guys because they were like, yeah, this was great. Did you notice that? Did you notice anything about their mood afterwards? And that it was a drama-free game for the most part, that y'all did what you were supposed to do?
Well, first games, new staff, fans back in the stadium. We recognized a lot of that, and we talked a lot about our poise going into the game. And we prepped them for adversity. Adversity strikes in football. It's the game of football is a lot like the game of life. I mean, adversity is going to strike all of us at some point in time. We never know when. We never know how. I don't think that was the ideal start for us Saturday. They ran the ball on us pretty good the first drive. We get the big punt return, 2 penalties. We start on our own 8-yard line. We basically, screw up 3 plays in a row and have to punt backed up and give them good field position and then give up a field goal there. But nobody panicked, and I thought that was a really good sign for us. I thought the coaching staff showed a lot of poise. I thought our players showed a lot of poise, and we settled into playing our style of football. I try not to dwell on the negatives or things that happened in the past, or I never mentioned any of those things to our players. I focus about what are we doing now and how we approach things now. And I thought our players were in a good frame of mind, like I said, all game long and throughout the game. I would have liked us to finish a little bit better. We ended up winning, I think, the fourth quarter 10-6. We love keeping the score in the fourth quarter. But we didn't close the game out on offense when we had the ball at the end. We couldn't get a couple first downs to finish the game. We allowed them to drive back down, and time ran out on them. But I thought our focus and our intent for the game was really good, and that's what we're striving for week in and week out.
Far right, Joe.
It seemed like for your defense, a lot of it went through Luke and DeMarvion, but also Ovi had a big game. How did you assess the performance of those three, and is that kind of your front line, and are you still trying to figure out behind them that linebacker position?
Well, I think 2 things come out of that. One, if our defensive line is playing right, that should allow for opportunities for our linebackers to make tackles. That means they're not getting blocked as much. I thought our defensive line played good. I think we can play better. I think we can be even more disruptive, especially internally than we were. But it did allow for our backers to make plays, especially early on in the ball game in that first half. I think DeMarvion might have had almost 10 tackles, and Luke had something like 8 in the first half. So the positive of all that is we were getting people on the ground. That was one of the key components to the game, was tackling really well and getting them on the ground. I thought we were able to do that even when we were wrong early in the game defensively and maybe out of a gap or not making the proper check. When we got to that point of having to get a man on the ground, those guys were able to do it and kind of until we settled in. And so, and then add Ovi into the mix was a really pleasant surprise. He's playing a little bit of a hybrid position where sometimes he's playing backer, sometimes he's playing more of an edge position and rushing the passer. Had a big sack on 3rd down in the game. So I like the impact that they have in the game. I think they work well together. But we're going to need other guys to do that too, and that's what we're striving for.
Hey, Coach, wanted to know if you've maybe had an injury update on Junior and Jared Wiley, and I'd also like to maybe get your assessment of the pass protection against Louisiana.
Yeah, I think all those guys are pretty much status quo. I don't, they were back out today, but we'll have to monitor them throughout the week to see where they're at. I would say from a protection standpoint, I thought we were pretty good. Two of the sacks that occurred in the game really came. One was from a tight end. They kind of delayed blitz to tight end and it got a free runner with a corner that sacked Hudson. Another one, we just kind of got beat at tight end. So the two of those came from the tight end position. The third one was really more of off of an RPO kind of standpoint where they had a really good call on. It was a tough look for Hudson on the play. But all in all, I thought we played pretty good up front. We definitely can play better, and in the run game and in the pass game. But you never like to lay expectations on our guys because you want them to play as good as they can play. But first game, new system, some of the mechanics, the communication, I think will drastically improve as we work our way through the season, and it's going to need to this week. This is an aggressive front. Obviously, the crowd noise will be an issue. They've got a very experienced defensive coordinator in Barry Odom, so we're going to have to be on our game up front in this one.
Front middle, center.
Steve, you guys are playing on the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. 20 years ago, where were you? What do you remember about that morning? And I know these guys were walking around in diapers. Are there any conversations about that this week?
No, we'll have a conversation. 9/11 is kind of near and dear to my heart. I was working at USC at that time. I was waiting to get picked up to go to work from Norm Chow and had the news on and saw it happen. The unfortunate side of it for me, my cousin was in one of the towers and ended up not making it out. I think it's definitely a big moment in our history and in our time that we definitely need to recognize, and we will obviously before this ball game.
Back right, Roger.
Steve, you guys did a really good job on third down. I guess the flip side is you'd rather not be in that down and distance all the time. But what do you learn about a young quarterback when he can make plays and maybe a little off schedule? He made a lot of plays.
Yeah, no, I thought that was big. I think one of the things historically for me, when you believe in running the ball and you believe in then sometimes, trying to push the ball down the field, taking some shots, you're going to have to play well on third down. And we set some lofty goals on third down for our guys. We practice it a lot, knowing we're going to be in them, right? And, being 10 of 15 in that game was a great number for us. I think that clearly is one of the attributes Hudson has about him. He has a very unique ability to be kind of slippery in the pocket, elusive, throw from unorthodox arm angles and still be accurate on the move. So that part was effective, and I think Jay Witt had 3 or 4 third down conversions for us there as well. So that is always going to be a big part of what we do because of our style of play. And so when we can recognize that and put ourselves in manageable third downs, that gives us a better opportunity. Our numbers to convert drastically go up when you're playing 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, when you're in those situations. The ones we need to make sure we stay out of is those 3rd and 8 pluses, right? 3rd and 8, 10, 11, 12, that type of scenario. Those ones are hard to make. So with our style of play, if we're really efficient in that third and medium to short, and we can extend drives and keep our defense off the field and play really good complementary football, that's part of our winning formula. So I'm okay with that.
Rear on your left, Matt.
You mentioned Jordan a little bit. Can you just talk about what it's like having him in the game plan and how he makes Hudson's life easier?
Well, Jordan, I've been singing his praises since I got here. I think he's been really bought in. Like everybody, it was a clean slate. I didn't get hung up on kind of the past injuries with him and the things that have happened in his career. I just let it play out and made sure that we were doing the necessary things from getting him ready to play physically and also from a recovery standpoint. But he's a heady player. He probably picked up our offense as quick as anybody, especially probably the quickest in the wide receiver room. Gives him a lot of flexibility because he can play multiple spots and comfortable doing it. And I think he's got a really high football IQ. I think it goes back to his high school days of the way he played in high school, of just being a very heady, aware player, understanding situations. And I think that's why it pays off for him on third down. It pays off for him in the red area, and recognition of coverages and situations as they come up.
Stay over here, Nathan.
Hey, Coach. On that 4th and 6 in the second drive, when Hudson scrambled for the first down, how big was that conversion, and what's your thought process when it comes to going for it on 4th down versus not? Is it more of a gut feeling, or do you have a process for that?
Well, it was obviously a big play. I mean, if you decide to go for it on 4th down, it's always great because the crowd cheers. It's never good when they moan and groan when you don't make it. So I think from a momentum standpoint in the game, it was big. I think from keeping the crowd in the game, it was big. I think there's, it's like anything. It's like calling plays. I think there is some science behind when to go for it on 4th down and when not to. But on the flip side of that, I think there's a lot of gut that goes into it too. It's always great to go for it on 4th down when you make it. It's never good to go for it on 4th down when you don't make it. And so you want to make sure that you've got decent things called, have an anticipation of maybe what they're going to do. So you give yourself the best chance to make it. And there's momentum involved, there's emotion involved, there's a lot that goes into it. There's field position, there's psyche for your team. But I just felt like at that time that was the right thing to do.
Stay over here, Matthew.
Hey, Steve. Matthew Bonkowski with the Daily Texan. Are you hoping to get Casey more in-game reps on Saturday, and what are you mainly looking for from him when he's out there on the field?
Well, I thought it was good, like I said, to get Casey in there and to give him some real plays, and he played well. I think we put him in. I went back and looked. I think it was 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. So to get those kind of extended drives the way he did, I think he got 3 series. That was good for him. He operated really well. And the key for him is the same in-game live reps in our system. I've said this all along. That's a real luxury. And I was thinking back to even with Coach Saban at Alabama, when Jalen was the starter and Tua first got there, he always made it a point to try to get Tua in the game to try to make sure he was ready. And then ultimately that paid off for him, right? Putting him in the second half of the national championship game. In turn, the next season, Tua was the starter. He always made it a point to get Jalen in the game, early in the season. And sure enough, here comes the SEC championship game. He puts Jalen in, and Jalen goes and wins the championship for him. So you try to learn from those that you're around, and that was a great lesson learned, that you got to make sure your backup is prepared to play when his number's called at those critical moments. And so we'll continue down that road with Casey on our end.
Stay over here, Nick. Yeah, Steve, just wanted to ask about Luke Brockermeyer, obviously a guy with a prominent name around these parts, but comes in as a walk-on, earns a scholarship, and kind of grinds his way into becoming a starter for y'all. I know you weren't here for his whole journey, but just in the time that you've known him, what have you seen that has impressed you and has allowed y'all to put your faith in him?
Well, awesome story, first of all. The fact that the legacy of his dad here and then him walking on. But in the end, everything he's done here with us, he's earned. And I think he's a great example of it's a clean slate. We're going to play the best players that give us the best chance to be successful and win. He's earned that. And I think with that, he's earned a lot of respect of his teammates. I think if you ask DeMarvion or any of the other linebackers, any of the guys on defense or guys on the team, they'll tell you the same thing. He's a hard-nosed kid. He's smart. He's got a high football IQ. He works at his craft. He recognizes and diagnoses things really well, so he communicates well with the other guys on the field. He does a great job for us on special teams, which a lot of people don't notice that all the time, but those are vital plays for us. So I couldn't be more happy for the guy, to have this opportunity and to play the way he's been playing for us.
On the wheel route touchdown to Bijan told us that you saw something to play before and kind of put that in. I was curious, one, if that's true, and two, but there's several other instances where you noticed things that maybe wasn't in the script or game plan that was effective.
I don't want to give all my secrets out, but I've said this a lot. I think when we're working as a staff on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we're trying to put a game plan together, we're putting things together that we think are going to be good for us on game day. But there's a reason we install our offense the way we do throughout spring ball and throughout training camp, and how we teach our guys, that we teach concepts, so that in game, when we do see something and I can go to a concept or a play out of maybe a different personnel grouping or a formation, the guys are pretty well equipped to then just go run it. I think that's kind of philosophically why we install the way we do. And yeah, I think there's a fair amount of times in game that we got to make adjustments. I think the game of football, there's a lot of adjustments involved, and there's anybody can hand anybody a call sheet and, hey, it's 3rd and 3, pick one of them. But if you don't have any awareness of what's been happening in the game, then maybe that's not a great call. So I really try to assess the game, get a feel for the game. The hot hand on our team, who's playing well. Maybe a weak link on the other side, maybe it's a backup, something like that. Maybe it's a trend in the game that we're kind of catching on to. So those things all kind of pop up throughout ball games as they come, and it's like anything. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But hopefully, we can create those types of opportunities when you can get your best player, wide open on a wheel route. That we'll take those for sure. Huh? I don't know if there was a lot. There was a handful for sure. And sometimes, we'll run a play that has worked pretty good and looks pretty good in the game. And we ran it out of the same formation a couple times, and, we like the play so much, we just want to run that same play again, and we're just trying to dress it up a little bit so that they can't diagnose it as quickly just to run the same play again. So maybe some aren't as drastic as others.
You talked a little bit, but going to Fayetteville and just kind of that road mentality, you've been there as a coach, obviously not in the burnt orange, which they'll treat a little differently, but how do you kind of get that us against the world mentality with your team? It's always about us. We really focus on us. And I'm going to tell these guys before we go out to make sure they enjoy the experience. That's the beauty of college football. They need to take it in, just like they took it in. I told them the same thing when we came out of the tunnel here Saturday. You have to appreciate the arena that you're in. You don't want to dwell there. You don't want to stay there. So you might as well get it out of the way and just appreciate the opportunities that we have. And this is a great opportunity for our guys, to go on the road in this type of environment. Kind of have to relish that role. But we'll then quickly flip right back into what do we need to do, fundamentally, technically, schematically, physically to perform. Because it's a lot easier to play when we're performing well. They get a little bit more quiet, and the game can get a little bit easier. So we'll kind of keep our focus on us, but we'll definitely make sure we enjoy that experience of it all.
Hey, Coach, you guys converted 5 of 5 down in the red zone. So I wanted to know what maybe led to that success down there. And when you're down in that area, are you coaching by gut, or do you have a more methodical approach when you get into the red zone?
I'd say one, that's another huge component to us from a winning formula standpoint. We really track touchdowns in the red area percentage. I know some people look at, your red zone percentage based on scoring. And, well, we don't love settling for field goals in the red area. We like to score touchdowns. And conversely, defensively, man, getting the third down stop in the red area is worth 4 points, right? You can force a field goal there instead of a touchdown. That's a big win. And so we really celebrate those with our defense. We definitely are tactical in the red area, and the things that we call are designed to be called when we're in the red area. But then there's also times in game when things come up that you do something that maybe wasn't meant to be that way. I don't know if you saw on Bijan's touchdown run, we actually ran the same play 2 times in a row as fast as we could do it, because we just felt like there was some fatigue on the defensive line and that we were knocking them off. And you could almost see Cade Brewer after the first run look at us like, go again. And so there's that feel to it too. But it's tactical. The approach is definitely tactical.
Steve, defenses are obviously going to load up to stop Bijan and you had success. You wore him down, running. But from the offensive line standpoint, how did they grade out in their run blocking?
Yeah, we were okay. I thought, we definitely can be better. I thought there was a little bit of, maybe a little hesitation early in the game, and we. We believe in a physical brand of football. We believe in knocking people off the ball. We believe in double teaming people. We believe in creating space for the runner. And I thought that got better on our end as the game went on. But the huge component to all that is, we missed, I think, 3 deep ball shots in the game. I think we missed a couple deep balls to Josh Moore, and I think another one maybe to Xavier Worthy. Those are the ones that we're gonna take those shots. One, to make sure we're keeping the defense honest, but 2, those are the explosive play opportunities that you can get when people overcommit to stopping the run. And so that's not really foreign to me or new to me that people would try to do that. There's been other people that say, hey, we're going to keep sitting back, and we got to keep running the ball and running effectively and being efficient and shorten the game to some degree, limit their offensive snaps, which is really kind of what happened in the first half last week. I thought we controlled the time of possession, controlled the ball, and I think our defense had only played 24, 26 snaps or something like that in the first half. So conversely, your defense is fresh. We're leaning on them. It's kind of like a heavyweight fight. It's kind of working the body, working the midsection. You don't always have to go for the head.
Steve, circling back to the earlier question about 9/11, 10 years ago you helped design a specific logo for Washington's helmet. Do you anticipate any kind of special commemoration this week with the Texas uniform, be it decal or anything?
No, we'll wear our stuff. That was something for a home game that we wanted to do to celebrate on our end, but we'll definitely be classy in our approach this week.
I know it's just one game, but did you feel like you found a run scheme that this offensive line can really major in and hone in on, or are you still trying to find that, whether it be inside or outside, which one you want to go with?
I hope we don't just have one. The idea is we try to be multiple. We have a real belief offensively that the more things we can do really well, the tougher we are to defend. And we don't want to be a one-dimensional team. And so we should never really go into a game or have my openers with just 1 or 2 run schemes. We're trying to, tax our opponent physically. We're also trying to tax them mentally to making sure that they're playing all these runs the right way. And if they're not, then we'll start to lean on those runs that are most effective for us. So, quite frankly, we need 4 to 5 runs that we run really well.
Last one in the middle, Brian.
Steve, you mentioned not keeping score in the fourth quarter, and that's really interesting. I'm interested to hear about your psychology of, running through the finish line. Keep your foot on the all gas, no brakes.
Right.
But keep going, and not just winning by a field goal or touchdown, but putting the game out of hand. I mean, is that a mindset?
I think it is. I think in all of that, you can't ever lose respect for your opponent. One, that they have the capability to come back, so you don't want to be reckless in your approach to get that done. And now you're giving them more possessions and more opportunities to come back in the game. The ultimate goal is to win. The ultimate goal is to make sure when we get in that locker room, we're singing our fight song together, and we get to have a 5-minute team party in the locker room, right? So I don't lose sight of what the ultimate goal is. I also don't lose sight of having respect and how dangerous our opponent can be, so that we, like Saturday would have been a really good example of, if you just start counting possessions with the clock, the time on the clock, and how many possessions should go in the game, you inevitably can end the game really halfway through the fourth quarter, and they can't come back to make that happen. So yeah, there's a fine line. I want to be aggressive with our players. I want them to stay hungry. I want them to know they have their foot on the gas. I'll be the one that would ever pump the brakes if that were to come up. But in the end, you definitely have respect for our opponents and what their abilities are and we start counting possessions. That's just kind of the way I do it.